More about that weak dollar, a relatively weak dollar. 3 days ago, U.S. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin arrived in Davos and told reporters the dollar is one of the most liquid markets. Where it is in the short term is not a concern for us for all. A weaker dollar is good for us as it relates to trade and opportunities. Well, those remarks weakened the dollar further, dropping it 0.37% against an index of 6 major currencies, and it dismayed many business people and policymakers. The next day, President Trump was compelled to declare that Mnuchin's comments were taken out of context, and he made this remark.
We are doing so well. Our country is becoming so economically strong again, and strong in other ways too, by the way, that the dollar is going to get stronger and stronger. And ultimately, I want to see a strong dollar.
Well, joining us in the studio is Westropp-Evans, our correspondent. Asher, a dollar, is it good that it's weaker, or it's better if it's stronger? Maybe the answer is that there are some winners and losers here.
Look, Kalev, you can definitely see there are some winners and losers. I mean, looking over the last year, we see with the dollar index, though it's down at the moment, we're hitting levels of 8.89 against this basket of 6 other currencies. That's at almost a 3-year low. And this does have net positives for exporters looking to get more value for their exports in the markets, which might serve to help the trade imbalance issue, a key point for President Trump.
Absolutely. I mean, goods are cheaper, U.S. goods in the dollar value, so they're cheaper for people, and that's helping U.S. exporters. Who would be the losers with that weaker dollar? So
exactly right. It becomes more expensive, Kalev, for imports into the country. While the exporters win, the importers lose. It's that zero-sum game that we're talking about here. And that will lead to a bit of the battle we're seeing play out at Davos, the globalists versus the protectionists. We see this sort of sense of when the dollar is strong, the US is a global force, the US dollar is a secure market for investment and trade in the global currencies, whereas when the dollar is weak, people get a bit afraid, and Americans tend to look more internally, and that might be something that underlies a bit of the US administration's policy, and something that we might have seen Mnuchin hint at with these comments that he's later retracted.
And what do you make, Asher, of this exchange between Mnuchin and Trump, both saying not exactly quite the same thing?
Well, exactly right, Ayman. And it's interesting to note that Trump has made comments in the past implying that a weak dollar wouldn't be bad, again, based on this trade imbalance issue that Trump is so set on trying to fix. He likes to see bilateral trade and equal trade, something he's seen as very important and something that the US hasn't had for a very long time, being a net importer much over a net exporter. So this might underlie Mnuchin might have said something that he shouldn't have. It's a bit speculative at this point, but it seems interesting that Mnuchin reflecting comments Trump said earlier, and Trump's so quick to disavow them.
Well, maybe one reason, Asher, is that, of course, the Trump administration has accused China of basically playing fast and loose, manipulating its currency down so that its exports are going to be cheaper. And now Steve Mnuchin almost seems to be saying the same thing.
Exactly right. And the US has had a policy of the White House not making comments on monetary policy since around 2003. They don't tend to make formal statements saying they want to leave it up to the market, not wanting to be accused of monetary manipulation, given the importance of the US dollar in global trade. So these comments coming out from both sides, from Trump and Mnuchin, both making comments in either direction, as you saw, had immediate, if not short-term, impacts on the dollar's trade, and something that could be a little bit risky and a bit of a break from convention, although Trump is no stranger to that.
And just briefly, the dollar, there's a symbolic value that you don't want it to weak simply because it wants to be the premier currency.
Precisely, Caleb. And that's been the attitude and the sort of calling card of US policymakers since around the 90s, saying a strong dollar means a strong economy, means a strong US. Whether that's actually true in the modern economy, hard to say. The US is trying to shift trade balances, trying to become more of an exporter as well as an importer. So maybe it's time for a policy shift, at least from the Trump administration's point of view, but it definitely goes against convention.
Okay, Asher Westropp-Evans, thank you for joining us on The Rundown.